Hey everyone, welcome back to ML Works. In this video, we'll be understanding the core concept behind k-means clustering with a simple example. So first let's understand the basic intuition behind k-means. So imagine you have a group of people in a party and you don't know anything about them. For instance, you don't know their name, profession or age group. But after some time, you see that these people are standing in groups of certain nature. For instance, some of them are gamers, some of them are sports fan, and some of them are movie lovers. So what happened here is, initially though those people were stranger, they ultimately found a way to interact with themselves and they found a common interest among themselves. So they formed those group. Now, this is the core idea behind k-means, where its goal is to identify these groups automatically. Before we get started with our k-means process, let's understand where does k-means fits in. So in supervised learning, we'll have our label and the model will learn from that label and will make the prediction. But when it comes to unsupervised learning, we don't have the label. It has to understand the pattern that is present in the data set, and then we have to make use of that pattern to make the prediction. So k-means belongs to unsupervised learning because it doesn't have any labels to work with. Now let's understand why is it called k-means in the first place. So there are two parts to it. First is k, which means that it represents the number of clusters or groups that we want our data to split. So for example, if we have k is equal to 2, then we want to split our data into two groups. If it is 3, then 3 groups, and likewise. So for consider, we have a bunch of data points. Once you apply k-means, it will be segregated into groups as mentioned here, which is 3 groups. Now the second part of the definition is means, which simply means average. So when you apply k-means, it will continuously calculate the average position of points inside each cluster. Basically, once you have one random cluster, you will start calculating the average position of the points. This will lead to something called as centroids. So these averages are called as centroids. So initially we'll have some random centroid, which could be your data points or some random average location. And once you apply k-means, meaning you will be continuously calculating the average, you will form your groups and you will have your centroid for that each group. So we'll understand this process better once we look into k-means process. So now let's get into our simple example. So consider we have 6 customers and their monthly spending in thousands. So customer A spends 10,000, B 12,000, likewise F spends 90,000. So by just looking at these numbers like the monthly spending, we can see two groups. One is 10, 12, 15, they belong to one group, and then we have another group of 80, 85, 90. Now this is what k-means will have to discover as we apply k-means on top of this. So now let's look into the k-means process. So the first step is choosing value of k, which is the number of group. So let's suppose we decide k has 2, which means that we want to separate the data into two clusters. And then we have to pick the centroids. So consider we pick centroid 1, which is 12, and then we have centroid 2, which is 85. And when we plot this, it will look like this specific plot, where you can notice the bunch of data points at the bottom, and then you have a bunch of data points at the top. And we have this centroid, which is 85 and 12. So these centroids are just the starting point because we just initialize these centroids randomly. Now when we go through this process of k-means, we'll be updating our centroids. So as part of the next step, we have to assign every point to the nearest centroid. So based on this plot, what we can see is these 3 data points belong to this specific centroid and these 3 data points belong to this specific centroid. But generally we won't have a data set as small as this, so we have to calculate based on the distance. So let's see. So if our monthly spending is 10, the distance to C1, which is the centroid 1, 12, the distance is 2. And if our monthly spending is 10, the distance to centroid 2, which is 85, the distance is 75. So what we want to do is we want to assign every point to the nearest centroid. So our data point is 10, the nearest centroid is C1 because the distance is 2. So ms is equal to 10 belongs to C1. Similarly, we have monthly spending 90 whose distance to C1 is 78. Then we have monthly spending 90 whose distance to C2 is 5. So data point 90 is close to cluster 2 or centroid 2. Basically, it means that it belongs to cluster 2. So we have to do this for all the data points and we'll get our clusters. So for cluster 1, these are the data points, and for clusters 2, these are the data points we get. So as part of the next step, we have to update the centroids. Since we already created a cluster now, we have to find the new centroids. So this is our current centroid, which is 12 and 85, and these are the data points. Now when you update the centroids, you have to first just average all the values that are present inside that cluster. For example, these are the data points which are present in C1. So we calculate the average of these data points and we get the mean value, which is 12.33. This is our new centroid. So if you remember our definition of k-means, why it is called k-means, we had this average and this is the part where we do the averaging. Okay, this is for cluster 1, and then we have a cluster 2, which is this one, where we take 80, 85, 90, we divided by 3 and we get our 85. So our centroid also remains the same here and it has moved a bit here. Now our graph looks like this. So here we have the same set of data points here at the top, and at the bottom we have our new centroid, which is 12.33. Now we have to reassign the points. Since we got the new centroids, we have to update our points based on that centroid value. So let's update the centroid. We again calculate the distance as done in step 3. So what it means is, so earlier we have done this step where we took one data point, we calculated the distance to the centroid. So our new centroid is 12.33 and 85, and we got these distances. So this data point is closer to this specific centroid, which is 12.33. And similarly, this specific data point, when it comes to this specific centroid, the distance is 75. So this is the nearest centroid, which is 12.33. So it belongs to C1. Now, if you do the same for all the data points for the new centroids, you will get the same set of clusters. So all the data points will belong to the same cluster. Which means, do any points change the cluster? No, everything stays the same. So if there is no change in data point moving from one cluster to other cluster when we reassign the points, then we have to stop our k-means process. So since the cluster assignment no longer changed, the algorithm stops. We have found our final clusters. So this is our final cluster now. So which is 12.33 and 85. So now let's understand what is a centroid. So we know that this is our centroid now based on our data points 12.33 and 85, which is basically the center of the cluster, which is nothing but the average of the data points which are present inside that cluster. For example, if your cluster has all these data points, if you sum them together divided by 4, we get our centroid. It may not even be an actual point, it is simply the average location. So basically whatever we get as centroid, it need not be an actual data point, it can simply the average location in our 2D space. So now let's understand how does k-means decide the best cluster. So when you apply k-means on top of a data set, it is trying to minimize something called as within cluster sum of squares. So let's understand that now. So consider we have 3 clusters, C1, C2 and C3. And if you look at C1, you will see that the distance between the data point and the centroid is high. And if you look at C2, even here the distance between the data point and the centroid is high. But if you look at C3, here the data points are closer together and also the distance between the centroid and the data point is also less. So basically the idea is the points inside a cluster should stay close to their centroid. Basically it should be in this manner, which is C3. Smaller distance means the cluster is better. We have this mathematical formula for this where it is summation of I is equal to 1 to n xi minus c the whole square, where xi is the data point and c is the centroid. So the distance between them should be as less as possible. So lower within cluster sum of square means the cluster is tighter or close together. Now let's understand how do we choose the value of k. So this is where the popular elbow method comes into picture. So basically you have to run k-means for different values of k and then calculate for each value of k what was WCSS, and then you have to plot the value of k against WCSS. So if you remember initially I said that we have to choose the value of k manually. When you try to implement k-means, you have to do trial and error process, and then only you will understand which value of k is perfect for your data set. So when you plot k versus WCSS, you will see a graph as shown here, and you will notice for different values of k, you will see that WCSS keeps changing or dropping. So there comes a point where the WCSS doesn't change anymore and it remains saturated, and that specific point is known as the best choice for k. That elbow point is often the best choice for k. So now let's understand the advantages and limitations of k-means. So for advantages, it is simple to understand the k-means clustering, and when it comes to the implementation, it is fast. It can work on large data set as well, and it can handle thousands or millions of data points. It is also scalable, which means. So now let's understand the limitations of k-means. So the selection of k is done manually, so we have to go through this trial and error process and get the elbow point, which is the best choice of k. And then comes that k-means is sensitive to initial centroid. So if our centroids are pretty random, then it might end up creating clusters which doesn't even make sense. And it is also sensitive to outlier, which means if you have certain data points which are away from all the clusters, then it will become difficult to predict exactly which cluster does that outlier data point belongs to. And k-means also assumes that the clusters are generally spherical in nature, meaning they form a shape of a circle when you group them together. Okay, that's the basic assumption made by k-means clustering. So with that, we are almost at the end of the video. So thank you for watching. I hope you understood how k-means works, especially the concept of WCSS, and how the centroid gets updated, and how do we select the value of k based on WCSS. Okay, so I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.